Most people in life are looking for how do I make a living and how do I start retirement. And I just sat next to a lovely couple who's been married 39 years, and clearly they're sort of in the retirement stages. My guess is that he prepared well, he did well in his work, and they're able to go out for that late night dinner and that late night date night. But openly, it's really not that late. What I'd like to say is that in life we have moments of time to make a difference for people. And I say that a lot, but people don't really realize that in those moments with total strangers, they have a choice. They can either make it really wonderful for that person's experience and make a new potential connection and network like one of my dear friends used to do all the time, producing for herself a 4,000 plus Facebook connections and God knows how many LinkedIn connections. But I really have to wonder, you've got all these kind of total strangers in your alliance group. The reality is you don't really have them in your life. You have people boring in on your life. You allow total, complete strangers to be there watching over whatever you post in terms of your recipes or your productions in the kitchen or your pictures, maybe if you do that of your children. But the reality is they're not the same as longtime loves who really love your soul. The people who really got into you, and the people who really helped you, and the people who really said, here's my Rolodex. I'm going to open it up for you and try and introduce you to everybody I know to make sure that you're seen and heard and valued. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you come and speak at my forum, and I'm going to make sure that I give you the best introduction I've ever given in my life to anyone. And I literally did that, and I recorded that. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that that presentation that you prepared for is really well written. And you know what? It went over really well. Beyond that, I might love on you and make all sorts of videos for your life. I might have them open online in my channel, and I might have them hidden still, and you're looking lovely in that black outfit, and your shoulders are showing, and it was a tough day for me because I'd never seen anyone so beautiful in my life is probably true, but the reality is that's what men do for people. They love on them, they understand what they're about, and they try very hard to put the professional foot forward and be as clear in their mind about what the lines are and boundaries, etc. But every once in a while you run into those people who are part of your soul group that you just love no matter what. That no matter what they do to you, no matter what they say about you, no matter what they ruin in your life, you still feel that undying love for them. And isn't that the Lord Jesus walking through us? Isn't that the Lord Jesus talking through us? And isn't that God in the way that we're supposed to love on people? You see, I'd really like to be a pastor in a small church, and I almost had that opportunity, except recently there was a problem. I just needed to stay a few days to get out of the rain and to use the telephone. But an associate pastor, who was not the lead pastor, literally ruined that opportunity. Then I was supposed to stay at a person's house to make up for the fact that I couldn't stay in the church anymore. And what happened, lo and behold, that another person literally ruined that for me. Actually, several people from that particular mom's family thought they'd all infiltrate our relationship, turned it into something illicit and immoral, which it wasn't, and literally ruin a man's rights to have safety, sleeping in, of all places, a car with some windows open so he didn't suffocate to death on a set of property that was literally sort of bequeathed or rented by one family from another family. And isn't that immoral? That everywhere in the world we'll let animals, wild animals, run free. I've literally heard wolves outside of one of the lovely little spas that promised to cut my hair. And as you can see, it's still kind of growing and being a little spuds on the top of my head. But the reality is that lovely lady who fed me one evening, who came back as the Lord told me she would, to check on me, I think to check on her stuff, literally didn't follow through on that. And my guess is because someone else infiltrated that opportunity. You know, I stayed there a few days later, literally sleeping on the picnic table because of the wolves that were literally in the forest near the airport. And do you know what I woke up to? Some police officer literally burning my toes because I had chosen to take my shoes off. Or maybe he was sticking me with a knife or needle, but I kept feeling this incredible sensational pain. My friends who kind of watch over me, and I sort of have the video of that, and it's a shame to know that a man like that is in the law enforcement group, and yet he's allowed to ruin a life. You see, in life, we are liable not only to our family or to our friends or to our careers, but we're really liable to the Lord. And if you think that the Lord has given you some right to monstrously harm, maim, destroy, or interfere with the Lord's plans for that individual's life, you are out of your mind. if you have maliciously gone after someone because you're too immature, too unyielding, and too, well, let's just say, evil in your soul right now, that you're harming a person's legal name or lawful rights to be in this world, that's something you're really going to want to sit down. Actually, I'd encourage you to get down on your hands and knees before your intellectually placed prayer altar in your home. If you've got one of those, then maybe you're on God's path. And if you don't, then maybe you're not following the religion that I do, which is a love of God and Jesus Christ and all the saints. But the reality is, in my home, when I had a home, I had an altar where I prayed. And that's what people do who love God. They make space in their life for the Lord. They make space in their home to honor Him. And you know what? I put together a loving package, a box full of things that I wanted to surprise the girl that I cared for with, to say, these are all the things I'm promising to you in our love together. And you know what? Some monster went into that box, took things out, and is literally pilfering from my storage. And while we know pretty much who it is and what they're doing and why they're doing it, they get away with it because the law doesn't allow people like me to go on in life. It allows people like that to live. You see, if I talk about these things, the next thing will happen is I'll get bumped on, I'll get pissed on, I'll get reprimanded in some way by some person in the force. Just like when I went to a church that supposedly loves people like me, and according to their entire national organization's tenets, they're supposed to care for the impoverished. But do you know what happened? As soon as I literally was there, the rain came pouring down. So I stood underneath the stoop, and then I decided to sit down underneath the stoop. And then when you get an old lady like me who's to sit down, and it's raining, and he hears that soft kind of white noise going, what did I do? I fell asleep. So then about 7 o'clock, I literally woke up to what? Standing over me? A policeman. Why? Because that church doesn't understand the separation of church and state. And that little logistics guy, the guy who's over facilities management, thought instead of opening the door or literally driving up nearby in a car and saying, hey man, can I help you in some way in the house of the God, literally decided that he'd call police. Well, I was able to talk my way through that situation, and another officer that came about really was somewhat okay, I guess. He said, I'm done here, and that seemed good. But then I got in, and I waited 2 hours for a pastor to arrive. That man who sort of screwed up and did all that fiasco realized that I was no derelict, that I wasn't going to jump up and start swinging as he alleged had happened to him before, and that's his own fault for not approaching with caution. But in reality, what ended up happening was I sort of got the runaround. I got the proverbial Christian runaround in a house of God. Can you imagine that someone just thought, we'll just let him sit here for a while, and then we're going to tell him he's not welcome to stay here? After the facilities manager literally just told me that I was welcome anytime, that the church was open literally almost from the morning till late in the evening, and I was always welcome to be out of the rain in that house. Well, then do you know what that security guard who allegedly worked for the church did? He tried to talk as if we were in junior high to that particular facilities manager to say, now did you really tell him he's welcome here anytime? Because he realized he was overstepping his bounds. Not only were both men out of line in the house of God, they're really out of line in my life. You see, they don't have the right to tell me what I can and can't do. They don't have the right to tell me that I can't ask for help from a pastor. They actually don't have the right to tell me that I couldn't stand someplace and try and talk to as many people as I wanted to say, look, this is my struggle. I'm looking for this. I'm looking for this type of networking relationship. I'm looking for this type of professional opportunity. Does anyone in your network know of someone? Isn't that how we get our own jobs? We go to these totally unknown sites that are allegedly taking in our information and supposedly helping us to procure employment, and yet we're not allowed to meet someone, a total stranger, in a very safe place, such as a church organization or a networking place or a non-for-profit, and say, hey, I'm looking to make a career change. Hey, I'm looking to do something different in life. Hey, someone has really harmed my life here. They've lied in all this, and everybody just decided to lie. Each person along the line decided they'd add their lie to the next piece, so that what they can end up doing is monstrously destroying my life. And of all people, the person that I've literally left my entire life's good, my life insurance policies that are not a paltry sum, but they're not $1 million sum either, but they would certainly make an impact on a college tuition of some child of someone that I love, literally just thought she'd add to the problem. And I sit there and go, do you have any idea what the Lord does through me and with the tool that you taught me And literally, the fact that I'm even talking about it allegedly puts me at risk because I am supposedly stalking. I'd like to know how that's even remotely possible. First of all, I don't have a car. Second of all, I don't have a telephone that works half the time. Third of all, I don't have any friggin' clue where you live. Fourth, I'm not even sure you're still working at the place that you allegedly say or lie about that you're working at online. And fifth, I don't know what monstrous boyfriend in the force that you're actually screwing with. But the point is, if you're not married to him, then you're already out of the alignment with God's plan for your life and mine. The reality is, I can say all sorts of things. I can tell stories. That's what a storyteller does. He creates a story. He tells a story to get people to listen. But here's what we're really talking about. We're talking about there's a principle of the Lord that says, I am your Lord, your God, and no one else shall become before me. If you're putting all these ideas and policies and practices above God's love to show in the world, then maybe your church is out of line. I don't care how large your organization is. I don't care how many pastors you have on staff. I don't care how many people you employ. If you're turning every little aspect of helping a human being into we don't do that, or we've got these policies, or we have to follow these practices, or insurance says this and we do that, you have totally lost touch with Jesus. Because Jesus never said, I don't know you well enough to help you. Jesus never lied about someone in his life. Jesus was the purest of all people, the most loving human being, and we're supposed to emulate our life after that individual. Regardless of whether a man or a woman, we are supposed to love people back to health. When a person goes through the loss of a spouse, we're supposed to surround them and take them food and do loving things like that. But the problem is those help things usually trickle off. Why? Because there's no plan in life and no plan in that church to let it kind of be a scheduled plan where each person takes turns to go and visit to make sure the person has a chance to talk. And do they send people in the Stevens Ministries, and are those people really trained in the Grief Share program? I sort of doubt it. When I had that particular program, I enjoyed the conversation. I liked being cared about, but there was absolutely nothing that man did for me that helped me move forward in life. After a while, it just became a burden to have to tell my crap of what was going on to him because he didn't really want to believe me. You see, there are liars in the land who will tell incredible tall tales. But then there are people who tell the absolute truth, but because of the magnitude of what they've experienced and gone through, the rest of the world doesn't believe them. You see, in life, we have moments of time to make a difference for someone. We have moments of time to show God who we are in our faith. We have our opportunity to walk the principles of Jesus by saying, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to harm someone's legal name. I'm not going to harm their physical being. I'm not going to interfere with who they love. I'm not going to destroy their rights to their own education, their own employment opportunities, their own chances to make an income and resources that the God provides in heaven. What's amazing to me are the people who steal from others. They totally don't get that God provided all those beautiful things that a person has in their home, from their life journey, from their travels, from their interactions with their friends, from the gifts from strangers and people that are loved ones. And yet someone just thought, God won't care if I take this. Actually, God does care. He cares a great deal. And the point is that as a lay pastor, or someone who writes sermons, as someone who'd like to preach in a church, I don't care if they have 25 people, we'll grow, I promise you. The reality is we have to talk about real things. And in our political realm, we have to talk about real things that matter to the day-to-day person. The average individual that's just trying to get by, that's just trying to plan a life, that's just trying to get married, that's just trying to make love, that's just trying to figure out their life in the privacy and commitment and contentment of their own practical home or domicile, their residence, the place they rent. And yet, we have rental properties that think they have the rights to just walk into somebody's home because why? They rent it to them. That is immoral. It's immoral. It's completely illegal because what ends up happening is then some nosiness starts to sink into that person who's not on God's path at all. Then they start to open doors. Then they start to say, what would happen if I took that? And maybe I'll just take that and I'll give it to somebody I love. And then all of a sudden, slowly but surely, evil and the devil sinks and seeps in.